What up, Wastelanders? Christopher here, Gaslands, NorCal. Thanks for joining me once again for another conversion video. Now, as I've said in the past, one of the most difficult things for doing these videos and all these builds and everything else is coming up with new ideas. So I'm always reaching out to my Patreon members, to my friends, to you guys, anybody and everybody. What do you want to see next? What can I do next? Because I've done a lot, like over 1,000. So coming up with a new idea can be a little bit difficult. So once again, I reached out to my buddy Bo Daddy and said, what do you want to see with this collection of builds that I'm going to do in the next batch? So he picked out the custom Ford Maverick. He said, I want to see you do that one in an Inferno build, but I want to see it like a red-orange with white flames. Now I've got white flame decals, which obviously come across really crisp and everything, so I was like, that's kind of easy. Is that what you want? And he's like, no, I really like your custom flames, so let's do that. So that's what we're going to do this time. We're going to be using this custom Ford Maverick, stripping it down, painting it all up in a kind of red-orange, and then throwing on some custom flames, obviously swapping out the wheels, getting maybe a flamethrower on there and stuff, may even jack it up. Who knows what's going to happen. But first things first, you know what we got to do? We're going to get this baby apart, get her in the stripper. Alright, so we're all primed up and ready to go. Now, as I was pondering which colors to paint this build, like I said, I want to do a fiery orange. I was really thinking of starting off with some orange red from Monument Hobbies and then highlighting it with some of the orange from the Vallejo Express color. But I hadn't pulled the trigger on that one yet. Went on to do, work on some other builds like I normally do. I usually work on 3 or 4 at a time. And I painted up this Camaro in the cold steel, which is a fantastic color, AK Quick Gen, loving their product line. And then the next build I went on to paint was this Cougar, and I added a little bit of the Express Color Mystic Blue. And it came out just outstanding. I'm loving the metallic blue. Obviously the two paints mixed together to give it that really unique look. So then I thought, well, why can't I do this with orange and give it this, the Maverick, more of a metallic orange fiery kind of sense. So that's what we're going to do. Mixing colors, it's always, kind of hit or miss. You got to make sure you get the right mixture, the right, how much of this and how much of that. Red and blue make brown, yellow and blue make green, and red and yellow make orange, and don't wear white after Labor Day, and never get a land war in Europe, all that stuff. So that's what we're going to do. Normally when you're mixing colors, you really should write down, how much of each one you use, but where's the fun in that? It's always the fun of discovery and reimagining and everything else. So let's see if we can find the right mixture, the right, how much of the silver, how much of the orange to get this Maverick into a fiery orange. So yeah, here's hoping. Alright, so we're all painted up. It came out probably more of like a very dark umber than kind of the shiny orange I was looking for, but still, I'm liking it. It still has a little bit of the shiny stuff to it, so we're going to roll with this. With the white flames on there, it should contrast really well. I think it's going to work out. I've got some wheels picked out, got the window armor and a ram all picked out, and then probably going to mount this on the top of the car, flamethrower, and like a napalm dropper, oil dropper, whatever that's going to go on the back. Next, after we get all those done, we're going to start working on the flames. Now the flames, like I said, it's going to be white, and for anytime you're doing flames, you got to do it in stages just so everything shows up right. So we're going to start off with the Menoth White Highlight from Formula P3 to do the basic outlines. And then we're going to go into more of the ivory and then touch stuff up with a little bit of the pale yellow, so it's not going to be a bright white flame, but it will allow us to do some touch up on the edges. You'll see when we get there. Now on the wheel wells and on the bottom portion, like the doors are at, instead of doing silver like I normally do, I'm going to do some rough iron. just to make it different, because I always do silver. So let's get all this stuff painted up in the black, we'll dry brush it, and then we'll start working on the flames. But yeah, not exactly what I was looking for, but it's going to be badass nonetheless. So let's get it done. So now that that's all done, we're going to start working on the flames. And now the method that I use with flames, and granted there's probably several different out there, I am by no means an expert. This is just how I've kind of done my flames, and it's worked well for me. I like them, other people like them, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start, like I said, I'm going to do it in layers. I'm going to start off with the Menoth White Highlight, just because I like how fluid it is. It's very soft and easy to go on. And when you're doing any kind of detail work, whether they're flames or anything else, lines, you want to make sure you're going to be using a brush that's got a sharpest point as possible. For me, it really needs to be as new as possible, because I am not as gentle with my brushes as I probably should be. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just do some swooping flames coming up on the bottom, almost looking like waves, going back and forth like flames will. And then we're going to do it on the top here, on the roof of the car, and then a little bit coming off the back. So basically 5 different areas. And, like I said, I'm not an expert, but this is how I do flames. One direction after the other. And it's okay if the first one is not too sharp, because we're going to go back in and sharpen them up when we do the other colors. Yeah, it looks like crap. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, and we'll get it all fixed up as we go. So let's get it done. So that's the first bash. And I know what you're thinking, wow, that looks like crap. That's what I think. But the thing I always have to keep telling myself as I'm going through this is trust the process. Trust the process. This is just the first coat to get where I'm going to put the flames down at and everything else. We're going to put another coat on there, whether I'm doing the regular orange and red flames or white flames. So yeah, just trust the process. We're going to get through this together. Next, we're going to be hitting it with some ivory to go over the initial coat of white, and then we're going to start sharpening it up with the pale yellow, and then probably even get back to the orange color to really tighten things up. So trust the process, and let's do an ivory coat on there, and we'll see how it goes. Got everything all painted up, as you can see. Went through and did the ivory over the top of the initial white, then went through and just did the edges of the flames with the pale yellow. Still needed a little bit more sharpness, so I went through and touched up at the very tips with some Fire Giant Orange. If you get up really close and personal, you can see where any of the little errors or anything are at, but farther away, looking pretty damn cool. Next, we're going to go through and do some of the fine detail work. Going to be painting up the bumpers, front and back, do some of the headlights and taillights and everything. Even though the headlights are going to be covered up by the Ram, I still like to do them. For me, it makes the build more complete. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Get the wheels and weapons and everything going on. Already know what we'll be using for the window coverings, the back window covering. Flamethrower's ready to go. Probably going to paint up the tanks in red, do a little more detail work on the flamethrower before we get this all together. Still got to go through and do the wheel wells and the bottom portion, painting those up in the rough iron. So still have some work to do before we get this thing all going on the Wasteland. So let's get to it. Alrighty, and there we have it. One custom Ford Maverick, all stripped down, repainted, fired up, heated up, armored up, ready for the Wastelands. As you can see, I didn't do a whole lot of rusting and corrosion and stuff, just because this thing came out so badass. I did add some like of the coal, dirt on the front, like for the flamethrowers spewing out, some on the back. But I didn't want to add a whole lot of battle damage because, maybe it just hasn't seen a whole lot of action, or it just is so hot it hasn't, been the target of anything, or at least none of them have survived. This thing just turned out totally badass. I absolutely love it. Huge thanks to BoDaddy for setting me down this path. I showed him a bunch of builds and said, what do you want to see? He said, let's do the custom Ford Maverick with the Order of the Inferno with white flames. So cool. I absolutely love how this thing turned out. The flames, like I said, it's a process. You gotta trust the process, see it through. I did add some darker portion to really make the flames sharper and make it turn out. I think they turned out great. Just absolutely love it. I can't say enough about how pleased I am with this entire process and how this thing ultimately turned out. If you enjoyed this video, you learned something, do me a favor and hit that like button. Great way to support the channel. Doesn't take anything. A couple mouse clicks, you're done. My goal is to do weekly videos, whether they're vehicle builds, terrain builds, battle reports, whatever. So if that's for you, hit the sub button below, ring the bell to get notified when new content drops. I do sell all my builds pretty inexpensively on my Etsy page. If you want to pick something up, see what else I've done, you can even request a custom build. If you really like to show some love, head on over to my Patreon page and get signed up. Every bit helps keep the paint flowing, the printer printing, and the camera rolling. Until next time, keep your foot on the gas and your finger on the trigger. Gaslands and NorCal, signing out.